Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm doing a Nilah guide for 14.1 as she is very strong at the moment and Collector is the reason she is gaining a lot of his power. So for runes, Conqueror is going to be the way you go. There is no real other viable keystone than Conqueror. Some people go lethal tempo but it does underperform quite significantly. Triumph is always the way you're going to go here as well. Very valuable as she very much wants to be in the fight, snowballing, getting the healing back. Really takes a lot of value from that. Bloodline and Alacrity. Alacrity can be interchangeable here if you are really valuing that attack speed. However, I would very much recommend going down the Bloodline path. The lifesteal is really valuable. Combined with that, the bonus health once you finish stacking this of 85 is also really nice. It makes her a bit more durable and has a lot of value. Last Stand is going to be the way you go. Last Stand, really valuable. Gives you a lot more damage when you're low on health, which you tend to be. You tend to rotate a lot of health throughout the fight, meaning you do fluctuate in how much you have and can abuse its keystone quite heavily. For secondary, these can be kind of interchangeable. Sudden Impact is usually a good option as you are getting double E's throughout the fight. Treasure Hunter also really nice for snowballing throughout the game. However, Boots and Cosmic can be interchangeable here if you do not need the boots, the T2 boots early on into the game, or you're able to really snowball and get them significantly early, then it can be an option. However, if you're looking for something a bit more standard, then something like Sudden Impact, Treasure Hunter can be the way you go. For minor runes, of course, attack speed, adaptive, armor is usually the way you go. However, you can trade out attack speed for adaptive if you are running something like Alacrity. You can also drop the armor for magic resist or health, depending on lane matchups, game, whether you want a bit more scaling and a bit more tools. So, the main reason why Nilah is so strong at the moment, which I'm going to cover here, is Collector has been changed. So, lethality, rather than scaling from 0.6 to 1 throughout the game, now is just a flat value of 1. Like, once you've bought lethality, you have that wonderful 1. Which makes Collector a lot better of an item. This item is really valuable. It makes it even stronger as a first slot item on the likes of Samira and Nilah, which is why these champions are really performing quite well at the moment. I reckon either Collector will get nerfed or Nilah and Samira might get nerfed. There is a chance of that, but the main reason why the champion is so strong at the moment is because Collector Rush is very good. I would always recommend D-Blade starting. You do not really have many other options when D-Blades start. D-Shield is kind of okay into like really heavy poke matchups, but once again, you are really looking at the D-Blade value. D-Shield does put you in this weird position where you're just not able to trade as well, and as Nilah, you do have a decent amount of sustain for your decent amount of block tools for your W. You can dodge things with your E, and if you go on mana, then you can just look to reset, crush waves fairly easily, and there's a lot of tools there. She also pairs really well with the likes of enchanters, being able to use both the shielding and the healing part of her passive. The paired XP can also work really well with some of them, so she pairs really well with kind of like hybrid enchanters as well. Taric is a main one. I'll always recommend a Taric Nilah pairing. Senna Nilah, also a really strong pairing. Both these pairings are really good at the moment. Even though I believe Senna is struggling a bit more with her builds at the moment. Taric, still a really strong champion, and Senna can still just work. Navori is going to be the way you go for your secondary item for boots. You're looking at something like Zerkers. However, you do not need to rush your full T2 boots. You can also just sit on T1s. If you're not as desperate for like tenacity, for a bit more attack speed, for steel caps. I haven't put steel caps here as I don't think she's as needing of steel caps as the likes of Marks. Marks is a really valuable tool as it gives both MR and tenacity, two very valuable stats on Nilah, where she can't block full spells but she can block full autos. Going into other options, she doesn't have a huge amount of choice. Shubo and Bloodthirster are very strong items on Nilah. She very much values healing. LDR, of course, is always a really strong ADC option, as you do want to be able to cut through tanks, and later on into the game when people have a large amount of armor pools anyway, it can still be a very valuable item. For your last slot though, you can also flex it with like a GA if you do really value the stasis. However, most of the time you will just be full build off those first 5 items. It gives you 100% crit, it gives you a lot of sustain, lots of tank killing capabilities, your cooldowns are off fairly quickly with the likes of Navori. Collector being a very, very powerful starter item. It just makes Nilah's build really, really cookie cutter. And really easy to go down that route. So yeah, if you're looking to play Nilah, then this is the build path. You do not really have a huge amount of options. Arguably, you can swap out your LDR with something like a Mortal Reminder if you want to keep the pen and you need a bit more anti-heal. However, I would very strongly advise against going anti-heal on most marksmen. Nilah is a bit of an exception as she does have a bit more AoE, but for the most part, if you have something like a mage or a tank who can pick up something like a full mail, or your mage is very comfortable picking up something like a Morellonomicon or just an Oblivion Orb for that matter, then you tend to not need to go it. Other options, I guess PD, that can be something you can opt into either as like a 4th or 5th slot if you don't quite have the income to be able to like power through something like a Bloodthirster, then PD is a strong option. Other than that, other things I want to talk about. So they are looking to hotfix the game either today, later today, or tomorrow. Depending on that, I imagine a lot of things are going to be nerfed. The likes of Storm Surge, of course, is a very strong item, with a lot of lethality options being more accessible earlier on. Might see some lethality nerfs. However, a lot of assassins just aren't performing hugely well. The likes of Zed really underperforming at the moment. I'm not a huge fan of Zed, but of course the champion, when he's weak, is weak. Other things like this, I mean, yeah, AP Assassins really dominate, Storm Surge really powerful. I know lots of people are complaining about tanks. I haven't seen as many problems with tanks, but I played a fairly limited amount of sample games on this part, so I have a limited sample size, and they don't really show up as being that oppressive in the win rate data. However, that is just my opinion. If I see a couple of tanks, I'll be able to kind of give a more concrete opinion on that. The main thing I have observed, though, is the likes of Teemo, Kayle, Gwen, lots of AP top laners actually are performing really well at the moment. Singed is another one, really performing quite well. So if AP top laners are able to perform to the extent they are at the moment, I feel like that doesn't bode as well for tanks, especially when the likes of Kayle is performing really well, who can like farm tanks really nicely, gives her a very free laning phase. Of course, it looks like Nash's, with it being 200 gold cheaper, is performing really well though. Teemo, very, very strong champion at the moment. Has options with like some of the new burn tools and some of the new damage tools, which is quite nice. But yeah, for the most part, Nilah very much performing very well at the moment. Keep in mind that as Nilah is already limited on what she can do, like build path and rune path, that does inflate her win rate as people are less likely to like differ off the core. So she's still a very strong marksman, don't get me wrong, but she's not as oppressive or strong as people kind of like perceive her as being. Her win rate is a bit inflated, if anything. But still very performing quite well. Wouldn't surprise me if she gets nerfed a tiny bit. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.